Hey, what's going on, everyone? Once again, this is Donald coming back at you with another video on YouTube. I am considered Donald, the security consultant, and I say that because I've spent over 23 years of working in the field of private security and investigations. I've also have worked for and trained with the Illinois Department of Corrections, along with the Indiana Department of Corrections. I have training with the Federal Protective Services Police, also known as Homeland Security. And I have numerous certifications in the field of executive protection, also known as bodyguard. Once again, along with lots of training in private investigations and the field of private security. Excuse me. I've decided to start these series of videos. I also have a podcast on Anchor titled Safety, Security, and You. And I also have a blog at WordPress.DonaldMuhammad. Once again, all really wrapped around the field of security and how we need to really reassess and take charge of our security. I was going to do a series of videos, titled about, really geared towards security training, and I still may incorporate some of that into the videos because, once again, like I said on a recent podcast, you will be surprised of the security officers out here in the field who unfortunately do not have the proper training. And when you do not have the proper training, then obviously you do not know how to approach a situation, whether it be a domestic situation, shoplifting, criminal trespass. If you are not trained, then you're not going to know how to appropriately approach and handle the situation, which will in turn lead to more problems up to and including loss of life, somebody being hurt, or civil litigation. Once again, if you don't know what you're doing, you're setting yourself up for litigation. But I decided to incorporate more in just talking about security, you know, and how we need to take our security more seriously, whether it be at home, at work, or moving around. And I say that because of the protest after the tragic killing of George Floyd that happened in Minneapolis. And we know what happened in Chicago, a lot of looting, a lot of businesses that were damaged, just overall destruction that didn't have to be, because a lot of businesses were caught flat-footed because unfortunately the city waited until the last minute to say, hey, you're on your own. And a lot of businesses suffered heavy losses, including Walmart, Aldi grocery stores, Jewel grocery stores, and a lot of your smaller mom and pop stores. And it was just really tragic. I have multiple videos of the looting in progress, and I have videos of the situation after, and it was just really, really, really sad. So what I've decided to do was switch to YouTube videos once again to talk about security. I've talked about the killing, the mass shooting at a funeral just recently. I've talked about topics ranging from the big thing of the day is, defunding the police. I have made it clear, that because I work in the field of security does not automatically make me a a supporter of law enforcement. What makes me a supporter of law enforcement is the fact is I know that there are good officers out there. I have worked with police officers who are just impeccable in the area of integrity. And I know personally that, you have officers out there who unfortunately do not represent their department well. They're just out there to get a check, or they're just out there to do more harm than good, especially in certain neighborhoods. But overall, you have great officers out there who get up every day and they put on that uniform, they kiss their children or their wives or their husbands, and they go to work. to try to make a difference. So on this YouTube video today that I initially wasn't going to do because I was actually getting ready for my podcast, but I want to talk about how we need to really hold our elected officials accountable for the recent rise in crime here in Chicago. I'm pretty sure it's happening everywhere, New York, Los Angeles, but right now I am watching Chicago change. You know, crime was unheard of in downtown Chicago. I mean, yeah, you had your purse snatchings, you had your shoplifting, but now we're seeing just carjackings in broad daylight in the Gold Coast area. We're seeing carjackings in the River North area. We're seeing shootings along the Riverwalk of downtown Chicago. There was a recent shooting in the South Loop near 11th and Clinton in the South Loop. These are things that were never heard of in Chicago, especially downtown. We know how crime has impacted the actual neighborhoods. Unfortunately, certain neighborhoods, African American neighborhoods, obviously have been hit the worst. Unfortunately, that's another topic, but it's a topic that we have to address, which is black on black crime. It's a topic that nobody wants to address, and I have said it before, until we take responsibility for our own actions, it's only then will we get the respect that we deserve. And you may say deserve, yeah, we have to deserve it. If we're killing each other, then we will never get the respect that we deserve. But that's for another topic. So, to see crime moving in areas that was unheard of, it should really make you reassess your own security. We've had a recent string of carjackings. Like I said on a recent podcast, it was really sad to see the video of the several individuals who carjacked an elderly man in River North in broad daylight. So these videos are not designed to, make you run out and, get a bodyguard or make you go out and get a security company. And I'm not here to promote anything. I feel like as a security consultant who does run a security consulting company, I feel like it is my duty to do videos, podcasts, blogs to make people, and I say the word correctly, to make people, take a second look at their security and reassessing the desire and need for security in our everyday lives. So on this YouTube video, I'm talking about State's Attorney Kim Foxx. Yes, I did a sigh talking about Kim Foxx because she has failed those people that put her there. She came in on she wrote in on the victory of criminal reform, but the criminal reform that she wrote in has failed. It's totally failed, and it's really failed those people that she claimed to have put the criminal reform injustice, for. She claims to have come in with an agenda to right the wrong of the criminal justice system that has seen countless, African American men go to jail or go to prison for either A, crimes they did not commit, or they've seen African American men be sitting in Cook County Jail over high bonds for minor offenses. The problem with that is criminal justice is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and people know that, and they're going to take advantage of it. We've had too many situations recently, especially with repeat gun offenders who have gotten out on some astronomical low bond and go right back out and commit another crime. There is talk around criminals, and I've seen it on the bond. You can watch the bond hearings on YouTube. Criminals know that all you have to do is go tell your public defender that either A, you don't have money, or B, you have very limited funds. And the public defender is going to say, well, such and such only has $200, or such and such only has $100. So now you see repeat offenders getting out on I bonds or such low bonds, and then they get right back out and they go out and they terrorize the community. Case in point, I'm going to look at my notes from my podcast, but I just want to share a recent situation. First of all, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever been the victim of a crime? And that is something that we need to take a look at. Have you or somebody you know ever been the victim of a crime? Do you know anyone that was a victim of a crime? Once again, that is a question that we need to all ask ourselves. And I'm pretty sure the answer would be yes, whether it was a minor crime or, unfortunately, a very serious crime that has taken the lives of somebody that we know. Because as those of us who work in the field or work close to those who are out there, we know gun violence is at an all-time high. And gun violence has tragically taken away a lot of lives and a lot of innocent lives. Here in Chicago, we just buried a 9-year-old child who was outside playing. And because of a family conflict, once again, shots were fired. The 9-year-old boy was hit. He was killed. We've had a situation where I want to say she was 13 years old. She was in the Humboldt Park area. She was in her home, in her apartment, and a bullet came crashing through the window, killing her instantly. These are things that we have to look at ourselves, and as I've said before, until we take charge of our communities, until we stand up and say, I can't do this anymore, until we hold criminals accountable and take back our communities, only will these criminals understand that you're not going to come into our neighborhoods and just do whatever you want to do. And once again, I applaud the community of the Cabrini Green neighborhood for standing up and getting the alleged gunman who killed the 9-year-old boy off the street. I just really want to stop and commend those people, because once again, as my criminal justice professor once told us, is that we really have to not be afraid. We have to take control of our communities and our neighborhoods. But in this video, I just felt compelled to say how we really need to hold Kim Foxx accountable. We need to do away with these astronomical low bonds for repeat offenders who only come right back out and terrorize the same communities that bail reform and criminal justice reform was allegedly designed to help. The question that we need to ask ourselves, outside of taking responsibility for our neighborhoods and our communities, is that we need to write and email and protest in front of Kim Foxx's office and say, how many more babies have to die? How many more mothers have to bury their children? We need to ask the same thing of Chief Judge Tim Evans. Once again, Tim Evans is an honorable gentleman. He's been around for a while. As those who know, he succeeded the late Mayor Harold Washington briefly as mayor of Chicago, and he has led the judges in Cook County for a long time. And recently, he was just reelected again to lead the judges here, even though there were some judges who did not support it, but most judges usually just go along to be done with it. So we need to ask Kim Foxx, how many more children do we have to bury? How many times do we have to continue to live in fear in our communities, not knowing if today is the day that I'm going to become a statistic in my own community? Or am I going to get robbed, going to the store? Am I going to get carjacked getting some gas, filling up the family car? Once again, for those who don't know, carjackings have been up. Shootings in downtown Chicago. We had a shooting just last week on 11th and Clinton in the South Loop of downtown Chicago. Once again, as my criminal justice professor told me, crime migrates. And I look at as criminals are becoming more brazen and bold as they have terrorized the African American community, and they've terrorized the Latino community, especially the back of the yard neighborhood. Alderman Lopez, who's an alderman in the back of the yard neighborhood, has constantly tweeted about the vandalism and damage and the taunts that the gangs have even done to his campaign office, his ward office. So this is just not a black thing, but it's a Latino thing as well. And now crime is migrating to those areas in Chicago that never ever had to deal with that. And once again, even though you can have all the police on the street, and yes, I am a supporter of the Chicago Police Department because I feel like that there are tons of good officers out there. Yes, you are going to have bad officers, but guess what? You're going to have bad doctors. You're going to have bad dentists. You're going to have a bad painter. But does that mean that all painters are bad? Does that mean that all dentists are bad? Does that mean that, all nurses are bad? So I have close friends who work with CPD. I have worked with CPD in a sense of assisting me in situations that require them. So I know personally that there are good officers out there. But at the end of the day, if we don't have a prosecutor who is willing to go toe-to-toe, especially with these repeat offenders, then you're leaving not just Chicago, but you're leaving all your constituents in Cook County vulnerable. And going back to 2019, in her handling of the Jussie Smollett case, here's an individual who took advantage of a situation. If you're gay, there's nothing wrong with being gay. If you're LGBT, I'm sorry, I might have said that wrong, but if you're, no matter, it's not about your lifestyle. It's about, once again, equal opportunity enforcement of the law. And once again, look how she handled that. He took advantage of a situation where there are gays and bisexual and, just people out here who are going through hatred as it is because of their sexual orientation. So there are people out here who are dealing with that every day, but Jussie Smollett took advantage of that. Yes, he's an African-American gay actor. There's nothing wrong with that, but he took advantage of that and made a mockery not only of himself, but he made a mockery of the gay community. And on top of that, he wasted thousands of dollars of taxpayer dollars on a case that, come to find out, he made up. As I was always told, video doesn't lie. So he was charged with 16 counts, 16 felony counts, filing a false police report. But what did she do? She stepped in. All of a sudden, the charges just went away. He forfeited his bond money, which is very weird, because when you go before a judge and you get bond, you usually don't forfeit your bond unless you're guilty. But his bond money was forfeited, and he was offered to go do community service at Rainbow Push. So that really raised the national spotlight on Kim Foxx and how she handles certain things. So while Jussie Smollett is allowed to walk, even though a special prosecutor was convened and now he is still facing 6 charges, but we have criminals out here who are just wreaking havoc in and around Cook County and are just walking out on ludicrous bond amounts. Chicago police has made it their mission to say we need to get tough on repeat gun offenders. But once again, it falls on deaf ears from J.B. Pritzker all the way down to the state, your state, your state leaders. It falls on deaf ears. But in Cook County, Kim Foxx has the means to get tough, to let criminals know that you're not going to be wreaking havoc in our communities. And I still say that we have to take back our communities. Once again, the Cabrini Green neighborhood, I am so happy for them, how they stood up and took back their community. And charges were filed against the alleged offender who shot and killed that baby, that 9-year-old baby. So once again, I want us all to really take a look at and reassess our security. Whether we're in our house, I did a blog and a podcast talking about the recent home invasion in New Jersey of the federal judge who tragically lost her son as he was killed by somebody that obviously had a vendetta against the judge, and her husband was shot and wounded. To just every day how people are living more and more in fear because our elected officials who are running on these platforms are not living up to their platforms. And criminals know this and are constantly out here in our communities making certain neighborhoods like a third world country. So once again, I really hope that we hold our elected officials accountable. I'm not here to say that we need to go back to the old ways of lock them up here, lock them up there, lock them up, because you cannot arrest your way out of everything. It's just not going to happen. We cannot fill our jails with everyone. It's just not going to work. But we have to take a one-on-one approach. When somebody goes before a judge and the history shows that this person has a history, a violent history of gun offenses or robbery or carjacking, anything of a violent, forcible felony, then a bail amount should be set that lets the criminal know that you're not going to get a slap on the wrist today. And our leaders need to enact, get a little tougher on criminals. So therefore, they know before you go out and you do something as a criminal, you're going to know, you know what? I might not want to do that in Cook County. Because all you have to do is look at Will County, Lake County, Indiana, and other surrounding counties, especially DuPage County. I want to give a shout out, as we say, to a close friend of mine, DuPage County Sheriff James Mendrick, who's doing an awesome job in DuPage County, and how they do not mess around with criminals in DuPage County. A quality way of life is the way it's supposed to be, and I hope that Cook County will follow in that leadership role and get tougher with repeat offenders and make the jobs of Chicago police officers a lot easier. That when these offenders are processed, that they're not out before the officer even gets off duty. That when these offenders go before a judge, that they didn't make a deal with their public defender to say, hey, I don't got no money, so I can get out on an I-bond or $100. We have to take another look at our elected officials, at the situations that are going on in Cook County and in Chicago, in our neighborhoods, and we have to make sure that we hold our elected officials accountable so we can have the same quality of living as they do in other counties. Once again, you can check me out on my podcast, on Anchor at Safety, Security, and You. You can also check out my blogs on WordPress.DonaldMuhammad. Once again, you can also reach me at info, that's INFO, at diplomaticsecurity.group.com with any questions, concerns, or comments, or if you're in need for security consultation or need of security services. But once again, these videos are not being done to advertise. These videos are being done to have a conversation about something that we don't talk about, and that's our own security, especially as crime continues to uptick in our society. Have a great week. Be safe. And remember, your security starts with you. Have a good day.